Good evening, everyone. It is time for our council work session. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Yes, I have an old one. This is not it. Mr. Jacobs.
Here.
Mr. Morrissey.
Here.
Mr. Lynn.
Here.
Mr. Amos.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt. Mr. Welper.
Here. Motion for the agenda is proposed.
Second.
Motion's been made with the proper second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. This work session is for the 2017 to the 2021 Capital Improvements Program. Noel, would you, where you at? Lead us.
Noel Anderson, Community Planning Development Director. Thank you all for coming. We've handed out the Excel spreadsheets. The first page gives you a summary of each department to show the full fiscal year 17, 18, and 19. Then as you turn to page 2 would be the next couple of years. Again, this is the Capital Improvements Program. It is a 5-year plan for infrastructure projects, equipment. It is updated annually so that we can reevaluate, reprioritize, assess new information, new projects, new initiatives, and new goals for the city of Waterloo. Some past examples of things that have changed as we're going from year to year to year would have been when the Sportsplex was built. There was some more money put toward downtown acquisitions to go after some of those flood damaged properties. Another good example would be when Ferguson Enterprises went out to the northeast site. There were some funds put aside for some infrastructure that was needed to make that project happen. And again, it's hard to see those on a 5-year basis. So again, that's why we annually go through and update it. The purpose, though, of having a 5-year plan is to try to lay out several projects, several years worth of projects and funding so that we can continue to be aware of them, be cognizant that they're out there, and try to plan for them the best we can. As we go through the Capital Improvements Program, and again, I apologize, this year we were a little hurried than we were in past years. Essentially, we send out a request to all the city departments. Doesn't seem like it's on, is it?
No. Not anymore.
Well, it was. We send out information to all the city departments. Obviously, a lot of the department heads have been through this process several times to look at them for what their requests are. And again, they're turning in information based on their needs, based on what they see is needed for the city of Waterloo as things change. Then we meet with all the departments to look at the previous funds that they've been awarded through the bond process. We discuss those projects, project updates, the processes, estimated cost overruns or savings are discussed. The projects are prioritized by the departments as they submit them for the capital improvements programs. As you look through this plan, each year is shown at $8 million in the GO debt requested. We do this for purposes of showing fiscal constraint. Each year is currently shown at that $8 million, as that has been a typical bonding amount for budgeting purposes. After the CIP committee sets the amounts, each department has the final ability to shift or rearrange amounts, staying at that same total. Again, as they feel the priorities may be different or as more detailed information per request is known by them. Let's say that they need another $10,000 to buy a vehicle. Then the amount given there, they can shift $10,000 from another line item to that item for the final approval. As I noted, different departments, as you look through this, have different needs. Some of them are mandates. They may be levy improvements or a consent decree. Some of them are based on department needs, like a new fire truck, new police cars. Some are based on plans and objectives, like downtown acquisitions. Some are in development agreements. We have some obligations for the single speed project that we're working on. Some are based on new development or new information, such as traffic improvements or new technology like the Laserfish system. So again, this is kind of the nuts and bolts of the capital improvements program. And as I noted, you have a summary sheet. Then as you flip through the pages, you'll see each department, each of the 5 years, and their line items and what they have requested, and what's been approved for fiscal year 17 in this preliminary draft. The next steps after this work session, we would actually finalize the full capital improvements program booklet. we would set a date of hearing for council to approve that. So that'd be coming in the next month or so. I don't know if anyone has any questions. We primarily set up this work session because we had a couple of council members that were requesting more information on the capital improvements program process, and we thought this would be a good opportunity for you to ask questions on particular projects. You can see there's a lot of department heads here today. We requested that they be here if they could, so if you have particular projects or questions for particular projects, that they could answer them for you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
No. Previously, the council and the public sat in on the hearings or whatever they were, and this is just a comment.
Yes.
I preferred that
Yes.
to this. It just seemed like I could kind of listen to what the department
And I
heads
think we
argued
did
for
too. I think we've done that the last 2 years. We actually had, the meetings were posted. Mr. Jameson was even at several of them, and council members were at several of them. Really, due to some staffing changes and shortages, we basically had all the meetings in one day. It was a long day to go through with the departments, but we were trying to meet up, try to catch back up because we were short. We were a little bit late starting the process, and this year we intend to start in August. I think this last year we started in December to give ourselves more time to go through that, which each of the departments, and have those individual meetings with everyone.
And this is coming from, as I'm on the airport board liaison, so I listen to their wants and needs out there. They have nothing in the capital improvement plan. Is there a possibility to switch funds around to get some stuff for the airport? The critical need right now out there is the parking machines that let people in and out of the parking lot. They make a lot of money out there parking. And
I'll
right
let
now,
Michelle
those
answer that
machines-
because she'll talk about the actual classifications of the bonds.
Yeah, we just actually had a meeting about that, so Michelle could let us know where we're at.
Michelle Weidner, Chief Financial Officer. I think the real question for you as governing board is whether you want to change how we've handled the airport for many years and you no longer want it to be financially independent. If you want the taxpayers to begin subsidizing it, then that's what we need to discuss. Otherwise, there are other ways that they could possibly finance their activities.
Yeah, and what did we do? We had we just had a meeting about this. You want to?
We are talking about possibly getting different equipment, parking equipment for the airport. The financing of it probably wasn't necessarily resolved. We could consider reallocating some existing money, but again, if we do that, that's still, you're now asking the taxpayers to subsidize an activity that we have not been subsidizing. So if you would prefer to have the taxpayers subsidize it, we can. I know their parking revenue is quite high right now, so equipment is working, maybe not the greatest. I agree it's not the greatest, but...
Well, and I think we had a meeting and we took a look at some different alternatives. There is a group that's going out to Nashville, Tennessee, to a conference that deals with just parking related. But you guys, come on up here, come on up front, man. When you sit at the front of the class, that's where you get the most. But let me see. Can you hear me? There we go. Okay. We have a group that's going to take a look at parking equipment in Nashville, Tennessee. There's a national conference they hold. Keith is also going to reach out to some other folks as well. So we kind of put together doing some homework first before we actually know what to assign that, because there may be different prices. So that's kind of where we're off. We'll get together in the next month or two to kind of discuss that and then bring something for you guys. And I think he was tasked that on the airport board as well. But we just had our first initial meeting to discuss some options and get some data for council so you'll be able to see it.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Michelle and or Noel, exactly where does the city council fit into this process? I mean, exactly what is expected of us as city councilmen when it comes to this, because this would have been the third one I would have sat in, and the first one was rather just totally overwhelming. The second one we got to participate in, and this year, as Tom said, there's no involvement, and then we're sitting here right now. So I'm just wondering if the mayor and the department heads are expecting something from us during the planning of what goes into the CIP, because there definitely are some issues that come up during the time that we've been on council that we'd like to have some input, but I don't know if that's appropriate until right now when the time is coming to approve or deny these things.
Right. No, you want to talk about that?
We definitely want to work with the council, obviously, and we believe a lot of the projects that are in here that were been discussed in the past, especially, meet the goals and objectives of what the council has had us trying to work towards. Obviously, officially your next, you have this in front of you to review. We'll still have to set it for a data hearing and approve it in terms of the projects that are within there. And if nothing else, I think, again, and I apologize for this last process not being as inclusive as we all would have liked. I think by having the documents in front of you now will help us all moving ahead for the next capital improvements program that will start in August, because you'll have these documents in front of you to look at, all the projects there and any other projects that you want us to add in. But obviously the council still has to approve this current one as well. And if there are some tweaks and changes in there, we probably need to discuss those very, very soon to see how that might impact the classification of the bonds.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So, Noel, at this time for this work session now, are you requesting that we go through this page by page and ask you questions about line items? Or should we save that for some other time if we have questions?
I think if you have any questions right now, we have till 5 o'clock for this work session. That was what we set the time for. If you have any specific questions on a particular department that you're aware of or a particular project that you're aware of, we can definitely work on
No,
looking
when
at
is
that.
the date set to approve this?
So probably next Monday we'd go to set a date of hearing, or the Monday after that, and then 2 weeks after that we'd actually have the hearing. So we're probably talking in mid-June.
I think what I'm hearing,
Can I add to that? Because you already have set a date of hearing for the bonds that we're going to sell to fund the first year's project in this 5-year is next Monday. So and we already have the hearing notices out, I think, and the allocation of the bonds. Projects can be substituted. For example, if you, I'm trying to think of one on there. Just a minute. I don't want to use a bad example. For example, let's say there's a traffic project that you're not convinced is the top priority and you want to switch to a different traffic project. That can still be done. If you don't want to do any traffic projects, for example, or you would want to take all the traffic money and put it to downtown TIF projects, that will be an issue for us to be able to get done and get the bond issue closed by the end of June.
so I think what I'm hearing is the starting in December with this process, going through our budget process, and then coming in here now. Do we have what works? Well, if council wants an opportunity to go through some of these, talk to whoever they need to, do we have any work sessions scheduled for next week already? I mean, if you would like more time to take a look at some of these, and then ask about those projects, and then come in next Monday, we have another work session scheduled to give you another opportunity. Would that be of interest?
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll get something set up. Okay, we'll get something set up, because this is a lot at once, so we'll take a look at that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, so just trying to figure this out. So there's also a column for priority rank. So at some point, we'll be putting a priority, a ranking on these projects. Is that right?
Yeah, well, staff, each year they do the 5-year planning, and these are, a lot of these are for critical infrastructure. So if we have a situation where, I'll just throw out an example, we have a boiler that's out in some place, or we know it's going to go out, that may be a priority versus, I don't know, like a window. I'm just, an example. So the staff, according to what they know that their needs are, whether it's based upon federal, state, or whatever we need to do, they rank them as a means of priority. And then we go through them.
Some of the pages have in those, and that's what staff recommended as far as. the priority.
Yes, just to note, the priority rankings were supplied by staff, so that was how they ranked them.
Yeah. Things that they know that they absolutely need to have at that particular moment or going into this next year.
So then it goes from high, medium, low, and within high, they might have a number after that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry about that. So we'll,
Mr.
yes,
Mayor,
sir.
one question, Noel, again, sorry. I assume we put a high priority on waste management projects because of the consent decree? Or is that?
Yes, if you remember a couple years ago, we modified their CIP to begin issuing $6 million a year, and I'm continuing to recommend that. So that's a separate funding stream because it's paid back with the user fees. So while it's a part of this, it's a separate subset of it.
Okay, but that's set. There's
Yeah.
8 million and 6 million. 6 million's waste management, I take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Here, when I-
Speaking to the microphone, Mr. Amos.
Yes, sir. When I see these fiscal 19, 20, and 21, and I look at the requested amount and approved amounts, are those just estimates or guesstimates, or what's going on with those?
Noel Anderson, Community Plan Development Director again. So the requested amount is oftentimes, well, it's exactly what the department has requested. So the approved amount, we've tried to pare that down while still trying to provide all the projects as best we can, maybe in a multi-year setting instead, at that 8 million amount. So you can see, like in fiscal year 17, originally we were at 14.2 million, and that was pared down to 8 million for the year. Fiscal year 18 was at 19.5, and it was pared down to 8 million. So again, we try to get that amount down. Sometimes some projects will have to drop out, and we try to base it on the priority rankings and all that. And I think the departments, for the most part, are trying to get out there what the costs are associated with these projects and what projects they see that are needed. And it's just a matter of, again, looking at those every year and annually reevaluating and reprioritizing what we think is the biggest need at that time.
So those could change then.
Yep.
No.
A department can also ask for $20,000 a year for 5 years, hoping not to do their project until 5 years from now. So they would have $20,000 every year, and then at the 5th year, they would have the money to do whatever it is that they need to do, if you follow that.
Yes, and I don't know if Michelle's making any funny faces right now as you say that. So we've tried to look at multi-year ones, and I'll use some of the examples that work very well. Let's say engineering has a project, and it's $2 million. Sometimes we'll try to break that out into, let's say, $200,000 in year one, because that's the design costs and all that needed. And then by the time we'd actually get the design done, then getting to next year for construction. Or so we try to break it out into a 2-year or maybe even a 3-year based on how long the project may take. Finance would like that as close to possible as to when actual bills are going to come in. But I know we have looked at that method before to try to keep within the parameters of it for buying like a new fire truck or something, maybe breaking it into 2 years or something like that if we can. There's a little bit of a concern there. She wanted me to say probably. I can read her mind a little bit. There's a little bit of concern about if we want to get a fire truck, and let's say it's $700,000, you want to put it at $350 and $350. If we only have $350 this year, we probably don't want Pat to order it until you approve the second one, because you don't want to commit that money before the council commits the money, if that makes sense.
That was good as far as it went, but I try really hard not to have departments do what Ron described and try to save up money for 5 years, because I think the best example is if you apply that to your own home. How many of you go out and borrow money on your mortgage 5 years before you buy your house? Does anyone? I doubt it. So I don't want to pay interest on something until we're actively getting it under construction. There are some large projects that can't get done in a single season. There may be some isolated times when we need to have one contract that splits the funding, but I prefer not to. You also don't want to award a contract if you don't have funding secured, because we all know councils change, things change. We don't want to have a contract that we don't have financial resources secured for. So it is a bit of a balancing act to go through that.
Michelle?
Yes.
A couple questions. First is, how does this play when there are unexpected, unforeseen, or even up to catastrophic problems that occur with our infrastructure that CIP would have to take care of?
Those are times when departments may have to juggle and substitute a project that becomes more urgent or critical than what they were hoping to do. We do a lot of that all the time as we need to, or try to figure out other sources to fund it, but those are some of the reasons. This is a living, breathing document that changes over time. We all know things happen every day. You'll drive down the street and there's nothing wrong with it, and then one day all of a sudden a pothole appears that we didn't know about. So, or a roof leaks, and we just have to deal with those as they come up.
So what if something, really unbelievably terrible occurred to any infrastructure, and it would take maybe up to $1 million? How does that affect the CIP plans for like fiscal year 17 that you're planning for right now?
I think that would depend on what's causing it. If it's something that's caused by a disaster, hopefully that would qualify for FEMA reimbursement. And hopefully the discussions that they're having about raising that threshold to $1 million fall by the wayside rather quickly, because I think that will be very difficult for a lot of smaller cities. $1 million would be hard for us to come up with to repair, let alone smaller towns. So it really depends on what it is. And there's some work. You'll see us come and reallocate things sometimes when we need to cope with things like that. There could always be an emergency that we don't, if we absolutely can't find some other way to do it, it's possible the general fund might have to advance it shortly. That's one of the reasons we have the reserves we have. I try not to use those. That's definitely the last resort.
But if it's something catastrophic though, a natural disaster, there's insurance. I would assume our buildings are insured.
Our buildings
so we
are
may not have to
insured.
pay all of it. We may have to pay an increment of it, but
It depends upon what it is.
Right.
Buildings have insurance. In general, infrastructure things such as streets do not.
Right,
So
right.
it really depends on what the emergency is,
Situation.
whether it would be covered by insurance or possibly FEMA, or what we could identify.
And the second question I had was, from sitting through this last year, and I think I brought this up to you in the last few weeks here, was you look at, and the different departments have all these unused funds going back several years, and they're unused for what reasons, and why can't that money be used towards projects that have not seen the light of day, even though they've been brought up repeatedly over the course of maybe the last 5 to 10 years?
That is really a question for each individual department, why a project isn't progressing as fast as they had requested or intended. Some of the money that you see sitting there may be contracts awarded or let, but for example, if it's raining and we have long periods of rain, we can't do construction. So sometimes there are delays like that, or they run into an unforeseen problem that they've got to go back and redesign something. But for specific questions, you would need to talk to the department that has funds still there.
And I'm sort of begging the issue here, and that is, why can't some of those unused funds be used for some of the things, projects that other people have been talking about, and resubmit what those were originally intended for, if they're not going to use them within that year and the next year's capital improvement budget that they're going to submit?
They theoretically could be rearranged. I guess as an editorial comment, that a lot of times creates a lot of work for finance. I'm now short 25% of my staff. I'm going to struggle with having time to just move money around because somebody didn't do a project that they said they were going to do.
So Pat, every department head, if there just would happen to be that situation, they are asked about that particular project to make sure that it continues to move forward and what the timeline is. So the projects are going forward. Just the timeline didn't match up based upon whatever the situation was, but they're moving forward. If there is a reallocation, that is a council vote, but the monies can only be used for specific areas as well. But every department head was sat down and talked about whatever the situation, from a couple dollars to a few more, but that was talked about.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Michelle.
So we've got 20 minutes, so we want to start kind of at page 1 and see how far we get today, or we got something else in mind?
We can get through a few of them today if you want them, unless you guys want to take a look at them. It's open.
Question I would have, I mean, if we start with Public Works, and I noticed this in some of the other departments too, but it's virtually every item in here is ranked high. So I'm curious, just, the philosophy of, some people look like they did, rank them in other departments. And Public Works isn't the only one. There's some other ones in here too where, they've only got maybe 8 or 10 items, but they're all high. Where other departments have 20 items and they ranked them a variety of different rankings. So I guess I'm just looking at this from a philosophical standpoint. Is this based on the individual department head, or did they not get all the same directions, or am I missing something?
Well, I didn't tell them how they needed to rank what they deemed to be important to them. Okay. But when we go down and take a look at each one of the projects, for instance, Central Garage Public Works, vehicle automated wash system is probably needed, but is that more important than getting done the fuel distribution site, which we know that other entities depend on us for that. So what we can do is have Mark, if you want to talk about some of your projects, that'd be great.
Sure, Mark Rice, Public Works Director. What I've submitted to CIP is both Public Works and then the capital equipment for all the departments in the city, with the exception of sanitation, sewer, and I believe Tri-County. Every department utilizes equipment to do what they need to do on a daily basis, and every department feels as though the priority of having replacement equipment is high. So perhaps I failed to circle the age on the form, but everybody needs equipment to be able to do what they do on a daily basis to support the citizens. And they all feel that it's high priority.
Well, going back to what the mayor said, for example, those 2 items, is it then up to us to determine which of those 2 is the more important if you can only have one of them?
I'm not sure which 2 you're...
Well, he mentioned the vehicle automated wash system and the fuel distribution site, for example.
Okay, for those 2, in concert with the committee that met, I kind of made the decision that, along with them, that the fuel distribution site, which primarily would be match funds for a Blackhawk County Gaming Association grant, potentially, because they'll only pay 50%, or prefer to only pay 50%, was more important based on what we found in the 08 flood, that we really need fuel since we support all of the emergency equipment and all the vehicles for the whole county, that we have fuel on both sides of the river. So knowing that we were only going to be able to bond for $8 million, knowing that I might get 30 to 35% of what I asked for, I just felt that that was more of a priority than the watch system.
But in the document we've got, it both says they're high. So I mean, it doesn't tell me that you're ranking one above the other. That's, maybe I'm not being
Well,
clear
those
on my
rankings,
questions.
I think were done long before the committee ever met, so I think what I'm saying is that I failed to circle
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that part
priority
of it.
level on those requests,
Gotcha.
but did that verbally when the committee met.
Okay.
One of the other things, Mark, you might want to point out is you're also requesting funds over different years. So while one may be a high priority in FY17, another one may be for FY18 and FY19. So they all may still be high priorities, but they're spread out over different years. Not all, it's not 5 requested in the same year.
Correct, there were only 2 of those projects that were actually approved for funding potentially for this coming year.
Okay.
While you're there, real quick, what's a storage building? I'm just curious. The storage building for fiscal year 18,
Construction of storage building.
construction of storage
That would
building.
be for an additional salt dome.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions for Mark? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Can I ask Craig, can I ask you a question?
You want to go to, we were just going to keep going on down the list, if that's all right. But I think Craig is,
Next.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Craig, you got your materials with you?
Mr. Mayor,
Got them right between here, don't you, Craig?
can I ask a question of Michelle?
There's already a question on the table.
Oh, okay.
So,
Just real quick, these, convention center. You get a lot of money budgeted every year for the convention center. Is that just because of the age of that facility, that it just, now it's gonna cost us a lot of money to bring it up to modern standards, or?
Craig Clark, building official. I guess I'd like to bond for a lot more money each year, but that's probably the maximum we can do under this program. So there's just a lot of needs there at this point. You know, we need to set and look at priorities for that building and, you know, move forward with which ones we can afford at this point. But, you know, I think it's a bigger conversation than just saying, you know, it's the age of the building. There's a lot of different things that come into play. So we've tried to set out some plan to renovate the things that we know will be there for a long period of time, like the boilers, like the electrical systems, things like that, that we can do now and keep on continuing to do. So there's a lot that needs to be done there. Let's just say that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Michelle, and what Craig's talking about here, in that, on that page there for fiscal year 17, it has the lines TIF and taxable bonds. Does that mean where that money is coming from? And then backing up to Mark's, with Mark's, where those lines, one or the other would have been filled in, they're not filled in. Does that mean that the funding source is different for those?
We probably should have started out explaining that. So if we go, well, we're looking at Craig, so let's just use his thing. You'll see a column for requested FY17. That's what Craig asked for. The approved 17 is the total amount of bonds that we anticipate being able to fund. The column marked TIF are ones that we would repay with TIF increment. The column marked taxable is a subset, so some projects are not eligible for tax exempt bond funding, so we have to use taxable funds, and that's just saying what would have to be taxable. So, for example, in Craig's case, since the 600, the 300, and the 15 are all required to be taxable bonds, so 915,000 of the total amount that he was approved of 1,460,000 would have to be done with taxable bonds. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And so, Michelle, all of approved columns at fiscal year 17, totaling all those up and all the taxable bonds would equal that $8 million.
The approved 17 column equals 8 million. And then the taxable only totals 1,694,000 because out of the 8 million, only 1,694,000 has to be taxable. And it'll actually be a little more than that because we probably don't have the costs allocated between taxable and exempt on here, but we will keep the total at 8 million of the two.
And we're still paying back about $8 million every year, aren't we?
Approximately 8 million a year is what we're paying back on the GOs, which is one of the reasons I'm trying to keep it at 8 million. And if interest rates begin to rise, they've been telling us they're going to for a long time, I've been able to keep our debt service levy fairly flat with interest and principal, paying off about the same amount of principal as we issue, and actually have been reducing it a little bit. That may change if economic factors change that would raise interest rates.
Any other questions?
Craig, I have a quick question. The Art Center parking lot, that's also part of the single speed Water Street whole complex back in there, isn't it?
Correct. That is, it actually, just to kind of clarify that, this will actually not do anything in the Center for the Arts parking lot. It'll actually be all the site development around Single Speed Brewery.
Any other questions?
Are we flipping the pages still? Moving
Do
forward?
you have any more questions about facilities management? All right, planning and zoning.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
with this, I'm just wondering how it is determined what gets a request out there, and then secondly, how it's approved, how it's determined that it would be approved, and then how it would, if it is approved, be ranked. Is that the department head that does that, and is that based on what's that based on? The decision.
So your first question was, how does something get on here?
Right.
All the requests are put on by the department heads, and obviously if as a council person or a citizen or another department wants to work on a specific project with another department or whatever, they just need to talk to that department head that submits them. Several times you'll have several departments working on projects together and figuring out how to fund them from what sources and all that, and working with finance, obviously. So I guess the first answer would be to talk to the department heads that are submitting these. When you're saying then what is requested to what goes to what is approved, so ultimately after the recommendation is given back to what a certain department would be funded at, again, that department head has the ability to move the funds around and stay at the same total to make their project work. So again, if Mark was given $90,000 in vehicles and he was going to buy 2 vehicles with that, and he really needed another $10,000, he could move that from mowing equipment up to that to make it all work financially. So that ultimately it's up to the department head to kind of look at those priorities, evaluate them one last time after the recommendations are sent by the CIP committee, and then submit their final answer for the CIP.
So coming into this, Noel, you would have an inkling about what would be your major requests
Yes.
moving forward? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of community planning development, ours are a little bit more project-driven than they are equipment or anything like that than other departments, so it's more a matter of figuring out which projects are moving the fastest and which ones we need funding towards to make work.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor? No. On the downtown acquisitions, over the 5-year period, you have a couple, $2.5 million or $2.5 million. Give me an example of why would we spend that much money on acquiring downtown properties? I mean, what would we, as an example, what would we buy?
The Grand Hotel would probably be a very good example of one that came as an opportunity that was out there. I don't know if you remember the status of the Grand Hotel. I think we bought it in 2010. They still had about 26 rooms that they had never repaired from the flood of 2008. So there were some severe issues with any rooms being rented in there. We looked at it as a great potential project to redevelop. The owners were looking to rehab it at the minimal amount that they'd have to make it so that they could rent out rooms. So again, looking at the highest and best use in that location. And I think that had a taxable value of about $1.2 million. Working on the project that we're now working on, we'll probably have a taxable value of about $20 million on that site. So that's a good example of one that, again, we were kind of putting aside some funds. And you know, downtown acquisitions, we're always trying to look at the land uses in there, the downtown master plan that was kind of developed to try and put like uses alike, but again, create those highest and best uses in the downtown area. You know, we have single-family homes next to commercial businesses and all that, and so we're trying to create a better land use in there, better environment for business development and redevelopment.
No. Following up on that, you know, the downtown development plan, I assume that's Vanderwall or somebody like Vanderwall?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And so in your mind, and I think we talk about this every budget year, in your mind, we're still going to be using them in 2021?
That's what's in here for now, since the decision hasn't been made to not have them.
Sure.
We look at that every year to figure out, you know, do we still need them for planning purposes? Do we still need them for help with design of buildings? And we of course, right now we run through a PMT and a DBMT, which is a project management team and a design build management team with projects with them to try and create, you know, those cool buildings, the designs that they think and they have experience working with to help attract more buildings down there. So, but no, I mean, we evaluate that every year to figure out, do we still need them as the time come, or do we need them to continue projects moving ahead? And again, I just showed it in here now because the decision hasn't been made to not have them, but that could change.
Right. And that's not a inference or reference to Vanderwall. I just mean, kind of following up on Councilman Lind, it seems like at some point in time we would start to recognize the options in downtown Waterloo are starting to kind of run out because there's not much land left. There's not many options left other than redoing what we've got. But I think we've got our own people here locally that we could do that, and those properties should have owners that should be doing that too, not the city. So I just wondered at what point in time do you as a planner kind of say we need to cut that off, or at least we start downsizing that? I mean, you know, you talked about the Grand Hotel. There's not, I can't think of too many options like that left in downtown Waterloo. Can you?
Correct. I mean, and you know, the CIP is kind of like economic development as a whole for the planning department. I mean, there's a little bit of an educated guessing game going on as to what we need. I mean, you know, the fire department will know, hey, our fire truck's about getting old, so we have to start planning for another one. We're basically trying to plan what's coming, where we think it might be at, and in this case, on a 5-year basis. It's a little easier on a 1-year basis because we kind of know who's out there and what people are talking about. And so it's the best guess we have at this point, trying to figure out where things might happen. And, you know, even with the downtown area, I think if we went back to 2007, we had the Sportsplex shown on a different block because the flood pretty much wiped out that block. We changed it after the 2008 because all those buildings were pretty much vacant, and we changed the location of the Sportsplex, and it was a larger potential site there, so it probably worked out better. But that was just something that changed from a year-to-year basis as to what we were even planning ahead for.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the direct question is, at what point do we continue to move on from there? I would probably hope that we get some support for at least this year and next year, just so that we can continue our building management teams moving forward. But I mean, it is an appropriate question. At some point, we have to move on.
Mr. Mayor.
That is 459. You got.
Well, okay, and this is to Michelle, you know, as we saw with one of the things on the agenda item, that where the estimate and then the actual cost was quite a bit more, it is pretty real that the cost of everything in doing these projects is going up, in some cases exponentially. And if that's the case, it appears that if we're keeping the bonding limit at, I think you said 8 million, Michelle?
Yeah.
Is that right? Is it time to look at expanding that to a point where it meets the rising costs of what we want to do with our projects? Just a question.
That is a policy question. If we would increase it, it would likely increase the need for repayment with the debt service levy, which means increasing property taxes. It's true, if you look at this, every year, we're probably cutting the requests in half. But I can also tell you that I think our departments all have limited staffing, and even though we may want to do $20 million worth of projects a year, I'm not sure that we can get that much work done in a year. We also there is a limit to how much we can borrow, and we're trying to be very conservative and stay under that limit as a good financial process. So there's a multitude of factors that we take into account in whether we really increase this or not. But
Yeah. And I don't know if we necessarily want to increase it. You know, the goal would be to move it down a little
Right.
bit, I would think. But as we move into this next year, going into some strategic planning options and all of those ideas, this will give us an opportunity to give some better direction to staff on how we seem fit and streamlining what we do. But
Motion for adjournment.
Second?
all right, motion been made with the proper second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Let's call the Human Resources Committee to order. Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Welper?
Here.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Mr. Jacobs?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Lind?
Here.
Mr. Morrissey?
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda is proposed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the agenda. Is there any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. We have one request today, if someone would take that.
Mr. Mayor.
Chairman.
Mr. Amos?
We have a request for Public Works Director to appoint two, that's 2 parentheses, equipment operator, ones from the current civil service list.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on this request. Any discussion or questions on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr.
I
Lynn.
move to table this item for 1 week, so I have a chance to talk to the director about these positions.
Second?
Sure.
Since it's a public meeting and folks are here and it's televised, is it possible to allow the director to at least explain right now his reasonings for this position, and then you can go ahead and table it?
Sure.
Mark Rice, Public Works Director. These 2 positions, equipment operator ones, are critical to the needs of the street department. They do a myriad of tasks, probably most importantly snow and ice control, and they each have both priority routes as well as residential routes in the wintertime. We've kind of moved away from necessarily hiring truck drivers as opposed to construction workers for these positions. So they do a lot of our asphalt work, they do a lot of our concrete work, And these two positions are replacements for retirements that occurred last summer, so that's kind of where we're at.
So, Mark, have these positions been open since last summer? Is that what you're saying?
They've been, I believe, July and August were the retirement dates.
So these would be two of the positions that were part of the proposed budget reduction that we discussed at budget time. Would that
They
be
would
correct?
have been vacant at the time of the budget. It came to you in January to approve filling these positions, and at that point in time, you approved me to begin the process, create the civil service list, and then come back for appointment.
Thank you.
And Mark, so you wouldn't mind if we tabled them for 1 week so we could meet?
I'm fine to sit down and discuss it with you.
What is that meeting going to be, so the folks out here can see it, or what meeting are you guys talking about?
Well, for example, Councilman Jacobs and I went over and met with Kent about the position at the Art Center because we wanted to do the research and find out exactly what we're talking about before we approved it. And it was a very productive meeting. I want to do the same thing with the director.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering why that can't happen in front of full council, Councilman Lind, that kind of discussion, in the interest of transparency.
Well, sometimes those kinds of meetings are better face-to-face with just a couple people, so you can have frank discussions. And Councilman, don't you think we had a very productive meeting? Didn't you enjoy sitting down and finding out what that position really was? And that's what I want to do with these.
For me, it was very beneficial. And I thank Director Schenkel for his time.
Mr. Mayor.
Ron is chair, I just asked.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'm hearing what you're saying, Tom, but I'm also, for me, you two councilmen had a meeting with Kent. None of us other council people were involved with it, and for me, I would have liked to have been a part of that meeting. I would have liked to have been, but I understand the quorum aspect of things and all of that, but I have no idea what was said or anything else in that meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table for 1 week. Let's do a roll call on that, please.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
No.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
No.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
No. Okay, so the motion fails. We're back to the request. Let's do a roll call on that,
Mr.
please.
Chairman, I would just mention for the record that, last week or 2 weeks ago, some of us voted against filling some of these positions because these positions were open positions that the department seemed to be operating okay with those positions open. And going back to the budget hearing, those were some of the positions that our budget recommendation could possibly have eliminated, could have lowered the budget asking $1.3 million. I also had a conversation with Director Schenkel. I found it to be very beneficial. I would encourage other council members to take it upon themselves to go have those meetings. I didn't think I needed to arrange that for other council members, but the bottom line is some of us think we can be doing things differently. And if we just continue to keep approving these requests, nothing's ever going to change. And so that's why I'm going to vote against this, but I'm going to vote against this, and then I'm going to meet with Director Rice, assuming this doesn't pass, and find out what our options are.
Mr. Chairperson?
Sure.
I would simply ask, these positions have been open for quite a while. I think it's reasonable to give us 1 week to really have a firm grasp on the situation, and I think that's all we're asking for.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Morrissey?
Well, the fact of the matter is that these positions were included in the budget that passed this council in March, they're there. The money is there. The money's there to pay for these positions. You know, I believe that if the head of that department is saying that he needs those positions, they're critical, then I would believe that his word should be paramount when it comes to the need, especially this time of the year when we have departmental operating projects going up. And I would thank you, Mark, for getting up. I would just ask Mark to explain. You had said earlier that these are critical. Can you explain exactly how critical and what exactly they would do and why they're needed at this point in time?
Mark Rice, Public Works Director. I think I explained a lot of what these positions do. But we have over 430 miles of streets that we try to maintain with utility cuts, pothole repairs, snow and ice control, etc. As I mentioned, each one of these positions will have a specific route for snow and ice control. And if the city is seriously looking at the transfer of jurisdiction of University Avenue, that just increased our workload tremendously in the wintertime, not to mention the overall condition of it now. Those positions become critical to be able to accommodate the citizens to be able to travel safely in the wintertime. And it just doesn't happen overnight. It takes training. They need to become familiar with routes and so forth. So, not to mention our summer maintenance programs.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
And I would probably say that, and the challenge is I would have probably already sat down with every department head once I got on council to see exactly what they do with their department. Even if it's nothing for about 30 minutes, go talk to that department head so that when situations come up like this, you already know a little bit about what's taking place. And so I would hope that we would be more proactive in doing that. And I think some of us have done that, but that would be a great suggestion if I'd be humbly able to tell folks to do so.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have to agree with what Mr. Morrissey said. When a department head requests these people, because these positions are critical, I have to go along with the department head. I'm not going to try and tell them how to do their job. So with that, Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lynn?
No.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
No.
Okay, that motion fails.
Motion adjourned?
Mr. Chairman, just a minute. I move to put on the agenda next week the facility service manager at the Waterloo Center for the Arts
Second.
for reconsideration.
Second.
Did you get that, Suzie? Okay. We have a motion for adjournment.
And I have one other thing. This is just a comment. Since the city clerk is retiring, and the council needs to hire a new city clerk, we need to schedule a work session with the council to start talking about how we're going to do this, what the role is going to be. It's going to be a two-person job, or with the mayor's help, of course. You know what I mean? We need to start doing that because October's going to be here real quickly. If I could make that suggestion. Sure.
Okay.
Does it have to be next week? Can we get a commitment that we'll, the next couple of weeks, bring that?
Sure.
Okay.
But I'm just,
Yeah, great point.
it's going to be urgent. October will be here before we
Yeah.
think.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Did I get a second on the adjournment?
Seconds.
Okay, we have, excuse me.
Did you vote on, no, we didn't vote on his motion yet.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was just-
vote on the motion to reconsider that
For
item.
next week.
Oh, I thought you just wanted to put on the agenda.
Yeah.
We should vote on it.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly which item is that, though, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Chairman?
The position of Kent's both?
No, the vacant position, which is the facility service manager. Isn't that the vacant position, Ken?
There's only one position.
There were two.
There's
There's one
one
vacant.
vacant position.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Right.
other request
Some
was
people
just to start
apparently
a
don't-
list. It
Yeah.
wasn't to
Really.
actually
Right.
fill anything.
So I don't want to discuss this.
Okay, so this is just for the manager, which is the vacant
Yes,
position.
yes.
Point of order. Ms. Shears, it hasn't even been on the city council agenda yet. We don't need to reconsider it. It was a committee that voted before. It was not the actual council. It was not presented as an agenda item on the council.
Right, he's asking that the committee reconsider it,
That the committee, I thought he'd asked it to be put on the agenda for next week.
the HR committee.
This committee.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now we have a motion and a second for, to put on the agenda for next week for the facilities manager at Center for the Arts.
Correct.
Okay, let's do a roll call on that, please.
Mr. Lind,
Yes.
Mr. Amos,
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt.
Yes.
Mr. Welper.
Yes.
Mr. Jacob.
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey.
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Now we're back to a motion and a second on adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Let's go into our boards and commissions committee. Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Welper.
Yep, here.
Mr. Jacobs.
Here.
Mr. Amos.
Here. Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Amos?
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file Mayor Hart's recommendation for the following appointments. A, Susan Price, Boards and Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, expiration date 1/28/2019, and that is a reappointment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on this request. Any discussion or questions on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Let's call our Finance Committee to order. Madam Clerk, would you read the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Welper.
Here.
Mr. Morrissey.
Here.
Mr. Jacobs.
Here.
Motion to approve the agenda
Second.
And?
and the minutes as proposed for May 2nd, 2016.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the agenda and the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. They pass. Under new business, travel requests.
We got some travel requests tonight. Investigator Savage, Sergeant Ludwig, Police Officer Frine, and Roberts to attend Midwest Gang Investigators Association Conference, Dubuque, Iowa, May 15th through 18th, not to exceed $800. Sergeant Greenlee and Sergeant Ludwig to attend Precision Driving Instruction Recertification School in Newton, Iowa, June 16th, not to exceed $330. Mayor Hart and Michelle Wiedner, CFO, to attend to meet with Moody's Investor Services in Chicago, May 19th to the 20th, not to exceed $1,020. And Michelle Wiedner, CFO, to attend Iowa Governmental Roundtable, Des Moines, Iowa, May 17th, not to exceed $320.
Why don't you go ahead and do 5 and 6, Bruce?
Authorization for Public Works Department to dispose of retired equipment, and also refund request in the amount of $40.50 for garbage fees paid on a vacant property located at 1818 Huntington Road.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on first 6 items. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. The 6 pass. Pre-auths,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the following pre-authorizations to expend over $1,000 of building maintenance, an amount with estimated shipping and handling of $3,258 for replacement of existing toilet partitions and urinal screen for second-floor men's room at 5 Sullivan Brothers Convention Center. Next is for central garage, amount with estimated shipping and handling of $1,218 for graphics for fire unit 330. And next is engineering, is the amount with estimated shipping and handling of $3,750 for replacement and installation of wayfinding signage near the intersection of East 4th Street and Sycamore Street. Next is for the fire department, is an amount with estimated shipping and handling of $2,079 for biannual cardiopulmonary examinations. And next is fire department for amount with estimated shipping and handling included $2,380 for annual support renewal for firehouse software. Next is police department with the amount with estimated shipping and handling $1,995 plus $15 shipping and handling for Stealth 3 advanced GPS mapping tracker and yearly airtime subscription. Next is the police with amount and estimated shipping and handling of $1,500 for Ford Police Interceptor SUV K9 insert. Next is the amount with estimated shipping and handling of $3,650 plus $50 shipping and handling for additional surveillance cameras for the front property of the property evidence building and attorney evidence viewing room. Next is the street department with amount and estimated shipping and handling of $3,217.50 plus $490 shipping and handling, which is an amendment to the original estimated shipping and handling for replacement type 2 barricades and flashers. And next is traffic operations for amount with estimated shipping and handling of $14,320 for VersaCam video detection cameras, cable and technical support. And next with traffic and operations of amount with shipping and handling of $1,700 for a Pelco camera license for 17 cameras. And finally is from traffic operations with the amount with estimated shipping and handling totaling $3,270 for master controller with Ethernet.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the pre-auths. Any discussion or questions on any of those items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Those motion been. And I'll make a motion to approve the budget line item amendments. We're on file at the city clerk's office, and also the bills payment this week. $1,159,381.57. That's 1,159,381.57.
Second.
We have motion and a second on the budget line items minute and the bills payment. Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion a second on adjournment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting this Monday. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll?
Yes, Mr. Jacobs.
Here.
Mr. Morrissey.
Here.
Mr. Lind.
Here.
Mr. Amos.
Here.
Mr. Schmidt.
Here.
Mr. Welper.
Here.
All right, thank you. Right now, if you would like to stand or sit as we rise or whatever for a moment of silence. All right, thank you. This evening's pledge will be led by Mayor Pro Tem and Ward 5 City Council Member, Mr. Ron Welper.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended, and we are deleting item number 9, and also the approval of the minutes of May 2nd, 2016 regular session as proposed, and the minutes of May 5, 2016 special session as proposed.
Second?
All right, motion's been made with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. First up on our items of business is first to, we have a proclamation for Letter Carriers Food Drive Day. And I'd like to call up Jim, oh, you're already on the way up, Jim Johnson and others, celebrities. All right, welcome. Thank you. How are you, sir? How are you? All right. All right, City of Waterloo, Iowa proclamation. Whereas every year on the second Saturday in May, letter carriers across the country collect non-perishable food as part of the nation's largest one-day food drive, distributing donations to local food banks. And whereas the letter carriers Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive is just one example of how letter carriers work to make a difference in the lives of those they serve, as more than 1 billion pounds of food have been collected since 1991's pilot program. And whereas we would like to recognize all letter carriers for their hard work and their commitment to their communities. All of the food collected in our community stays in our community, and we support the carriers' efforts to help those in need in our community. Now, therefore, I, Quentin Hart, Mayor of the City of Waterloo, Iowa, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 14, 2016 as Letter Carriers Food Drive Day. So, very, very special day, and I'm pretty sure we have some comments, knowing these gentlemen, about Saturday.
Hi, my name is Jim Johnson, and thanks for the opportunity and recognizing our day. We would like everyone, this year we're doing something different. We're going to have, at your mailbox, you'll have a bag to put your food in. So we would like you to fill the bag up, and on Saturday morning by 9 a.m., have your non-perishable foods at your mailbox, and letter carriers and volunteers will be there to collect all of them for you. Rain or shine, we'll be there.
All right.
So we once again want to thank you guys very much for this.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, and thank you for all you do. And I know we're all looking forward to making sure that we participate this week as well. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can have that. I'm sorry. All right, and just really quickly, Susan is not here today.
Yes, she is.
She is? I just got a note that she wouldn't be here. Okay.
Change plans.
I didn't mean to throw you under the bus just then. All right, this is a very, very special recognition. Susan, if you would please come up.
Got somebody else to mind this story.
Okay. All right. And this award is presented to Susan Pearson in appreciation of 30 years of valuable and dedicated service to the city of Waterloo, Iowa. This, was this May, what's today? May 9th, 2016. But Susan, absolutely congratulations. Thank you for your dedication to the city of Waterloo, for providing quality service. And could you tell us one or two things you like best about working for the city?
It's been a pleasure, and I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity to promote some services.
All right.
By all means, come on by. You can do it digitally. You can do it in person, on the phone, online, whatever. Come get your tax dollars worth and make use of this fantastic community resource. This Thursday from 4 to 6 is the grand opening of our new maker space, something totally new and different for the library. Come on down and check it out.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. Can we give another round of applause? Thank you, Susan. If you want to stick around, I don't know how many council meetings you've been to in the last several years. You're more than welcome. All right. Thank you. She ran out of here.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda. That's 1A through item 6. And within that are the bills payment. Bill payment this week is $1,159,381.57. That's 1,159,381.57.
Second.
All right. Motion's been made with the proper second. Any questions? Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes, except 1B4, and I'm voting against that item. I'm voting against the positions, not the people.
This is the people, though. Just, we've gotten a legal opinion on it. At this point, you are voting on the people because the committee's already voted to fill the vacancy. So this is just who's appointed to those positions. It's not to whether or not we would fill the vacancy.
Excuse me, you voted no.
Okay. Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
I would vote yes on everything except item 1B4.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
All right. Those items carried. All right. And Susan Price has also received an appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission. Are you in the audience, Susan? All right. Well, we thank you for your service if you're watching. Let's go. Public.
Mr. Mayor, item 2, it appears that we are canceling the hearing due to a lack of bids, and that's for the Hawkeye Lift Station Wet Well Rehabilitation Project, contract number 911.
Do we need a motion for that, or is that just canceled?
Just needs to be read into the minutes.
Thank you.
Yep, my pleasure.
Someone want to take the next item?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Morrissey.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file proof of publication notice of public hearing on the fiscal year 2016 4th Street Bridge Canopy Repairs Contract number 910.
Second?
Motion's been made with the proper second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We have, the hearing is now open. Madam Clerk, are there any comments on file?
There were none.
There were none. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for or against this particular item? Or you have questions?
David Dryer, 3145 West 4th Street. Reading what I read in the paper, is this item 3 to pass going ahead with the contract, or Sounds to me like it ought to be put back on the back burner to find out whether we can find a bid that was within that amount that was, that AECom. So I guess that's my question is, where are we at with this? With this, it sounds like it's an approval of that higher bid, or is it not?
This is just to, for us to read the bids, for the city clerk to read the bids, and then also to give back to the, give to the city engineer for review, and that's where we'll come with suggestions, comments, or see where we're at with that project.
Okay, want a clarification? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You got it? Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Morrison.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to close the hearing and receive and file oral comments.
Second?
Motion's been made with the proper second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing is closed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution confirming approval of plan specifications, form of contract, et cetera.
Second?
Motion's been made with the proper second. Council, are there any questions?
So, Mr. Mayor, just for the record, when this item originally was approved, and I forget the amount, was it 250 or 150? How much was it originally?
Was it this project?
Yeah. What was the original estimate?
The 1.5?
Eric Thorson, the total project was 1.5 million. The engineer's estimate was little over 1.2 million.
Okay, and now it's going to be 2.5, is that
Well, that's what the
correct?
bid came in.
Right, right.
Obviously, we can't afford that, so we'll have to have some discussions to figure out what to do.
So will that come back to council again?
Well, I would suspect, we haven't had those discussions yet, but I would suspect we'll probably reject the bid at the next council meeting, and then we'll move into those discussions and things.
Good.
Try to figure out what the approach should be at this point.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Morrison?
Are we going to vote?
Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing to proceed.
Second?
All right, Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
All right, those items carried.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file and instruct city clerk to read bids and refer to city engineer for review.
Second?
Motion's been made with the proper second. Any questions first? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
There was one bid, it's from Peterson Contractors, Inc. The bid bond was for 5%, and the bid amount was for $2,574,337, 2,574,337.00.
All right, thank you. Could someone take 4 and 5?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Item 4 is adopting a resolution approving notice of intent for NPDES coverage under general permit to the Iowa Department of Natural Resources for fiscal year 2016. Sherwood Recreational Area Phase 2 improvements, and authorize the mayor to execute said document. Item number 5 is adopting a resolution approving acceptance of a grant from Blackhawk Gaming Association in the amount of $48,000 and a grant from Community Foundation of Northeast Iowa in the amount of $15,775 for a creation of a playscape interactive play structure at the Phelps Youth Pavilion.
Second.
Motion's been made with the proper second. Any questions about these two items? Second time. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
All right, those items carried. 6 and 7?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt the following resolutions. Number 6, a resolution adopting City of Waterloo Employee Wellness Plan. Number 7, a resolution to approve Unity Point Health Allen Hospital in the amount not to exceed $14,500 for City of Waterloo Employee EAP program.
Second.
All right, motion's been made with the proper second. Any questions about these items? Second time. Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
All right, those items carry. Number 8, please. Mr.
Mr.
Schmidt.
Mayor,
Item number 8 is a motion to receive, file, and consider and pass for the second time an ordinance approving a request by Clausen Engineering on behalf of Realty Income Corporation for a site plan amendment to allow off-premise signage to be located at 2825 Crossroads Boulevard to construct a new restaurant and coffee shop.
Second.
All right, motion's been made with the proper second. Any questions about this item? Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
All right, that carries.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules.
second.
Motion's been made with the proper second. Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
All right, that item carries.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion then to consider and pass for the third time and adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Motion's been made with the proper second. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Morrissey?
Yes.
Mr. Lind?
Yes.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
Yes.
All right, those items carry. Can we take 10 and 11, please?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
number 10 is a motion to approve exception to burning yard waste application by Hoover Middle School, Waterloo Community Schools to burn native forbs and native prairie grass on 1/2 acre along 630 Hillcrest Road between April 18, 2016 and May 30th, 2016 between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. Number 11 is a motion to approve the change order number 1 in the amount of $4,400 to Lodge Construction of Clarksville, Iowa, in conjunction with the Sherwood Recreation Area Phase 2 improvements.
Second.
All right, motion's been made with the proper second. We have someone talk a little bit about the change order.
Paul Hutting, Leisure Services Director. As the area where the new park is being developed was being cleared for a trail and parking lot and picnic shelter, it was discovered that there were several large trees that were not dead but unsafe. They were partially rotten and would pose a threat or could pose a threat to recreational users. So those trees were removed. That's what this amount is. They were removed by the contractor. It's still within the budget that we have, so it will require additional city funds. The REAP, $200,000 REAP grant will cover the cost.
Okay. All right, any other questions on these two items?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Chief Tree Lore? Hang on. Okay.
Dan Trucca, Director of Safety. I assume this is in regard to item number 10.
Yes,
And,
it is. Yeah.
They've done this before. It's been signed off by the fire department. The DNR took a look at it. It is prairie grass that they're going to be burning, and it's approved by all parties that are interested.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
These are motions.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those items carry. Someone take 12 and 13.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Amos.
motion to reconsider resolution approving memorandum of understanding with Intercog in the amount of up to $2,000 if the grant is awarded for grant writing services related to a land and water conservation LWCF Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Grant, ORLP program grant, to be used for the Cedar River Whitewater and Habitat Improvement Project. Number 13 is a resolution approving memorandum of understanding with Intercog and an amount up to $2,000 if the grant is awarded for grant writing services related to a land and water conservation LWCF Outdoor Recreation Legacy Partnership Grant, ORLP program grant, to be used for the Cedar River Whitewater and Habitat Improvements Project.
And for the record, both Mr. Amos and I are able to make this motion, second this motion. That's correct.
Correct, because Mr. Amos was absent and you were on the prevailing side by abstaining, which is essentially a no vote.
I will second those motions.
All right. Is that a roll call?
Yes, because you're doing a motion and a resolution together. Unless you want to vote on them separately, just do a voice vote for this one, and then we can do a roll call for that one.
On number 12, we'll do a voice vote. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I do just want to state for the record, because I have gotten quite a number of emails on these two items and two following items, and from both sides. And I do just want to state for the record, in the 9 years I've been on the council, I have consistently made seconds on motions, whether I agreed with them or not, just to allow for further discussion. That's my purpose in doing so tonight.
All right. Got a question for us, sir?
Yes. Jim Chapman, 224 Birch. I got a email from a Daniel, P-A-W-L-K, I can't pronounce it. His objections to this whitewater rafting, and I think Susie got a copy, the mayor got a copy, Tom Lynn, Steve Schmidt, and Bruce Jacobs.
They were forwarded to the rest of the council.
Did you forward them?
Yeah. And actually,
Okay, and it was raising, excuse me, Mayor, it was raising his objections to this whitewater rafting, and he suggested to put it on the back burner for 9 months. It included everything from liability to a whole bunch of things in there.
Yeah.
And
Actually, once we decide if this is going to be reconsidered, I had staff take a look at his suggestions, and we'll talk about those suggestions and the comments that staff had with those regards. So I need to see if it's going to be reconsidered, but there's answers to the questions.
Okay, I just wanted to bring attention to this gentleman's objections because he's got some good ones. So
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yes, sir.
Bill Kemmeyer, 526 Home Park Boulevard, Waterloo, Iowa, and I'll step back. I also want to address this issue, and I just got some suggestions here that I don't think you're addressing the real problem here. And this is my opinion, and I hope that I've made that clear to everybody when I stand up here. It's only my opinion based on what I know, not what I don't know. Now, when it comes to the Cedar River, and you're talking about a whitewater program that's going to ultimately cost the taxpayers money, so quit playing games with that. It doesn't make any difference whether it comes from a federal grant, local grant. It's all taxpayers' money. So that phrase that you're using, that no taxpayers' money, is a false statement to start with. Now, the $64 question to me is what's the value of this program to the community? And as I can see it, it's not a value. It's going to be a value, what, to a couple, 300 people maybe, possibly? I think you ought to step back, and when you're looking at the Cedar River, we've allowed that Cedar River to be a problem since way back when they decided, the city council at that time and the mayor decided at that time that Mr. Shirey was making money off of taking sand out of the Cedar River. So they decided they were going to charge him for taking that sand out of there, and he said, no, you're not, and he moved out. That started the whole mess we got with the Cedar River right now. If you want to create value to thousands of people in Waterloo, thousands, dredge the river. Dredge the river. If you want to do something productive that will help thousands of people of all walks of life, of all parts of the community, that's the way to do it. It's not playing games with a river raft, whitewater river raft. That's not going to serve very many people. It's not going to have any value to 90%, 95% of the people in Waterloo. So if you want to really tackle a problem, Why don't you tackle the real problem? And the real problem was, let's make the Cedar River something to draw us all together, regardless of where we live, regardless of our income, regardless of anything. Because many, many events in my day happened on the Cedar River. Boat races, fireworks. I mean, I could go down, I could list you all kinds of items that happened, and all you needed was a picnic a blanket and a basket full of picnic, and go down on the Cedar River and watch something that was enjoyable. We took the Waterhawks out of here because of what we done. Now they had to go out to Evansdale. If we got I don't even know about the Waterhawks. All I know is they put on a heck of a show out there, but they used to do it for free on the Cedar River. There was a lot of boat races for free on the Cedar River. All kinds of people with boats were out there on the weekends. The weekends were packed with people on the Cedar River, using the Cedar River. So if you really want to do something constructive, forget about this thing. Put it on the back burner. Maybe at some point in time, yeah, it's a good project. But let's do something that is of value to everybody in the community, not just a select few.
All right, thank you for your comments. Yeah, we said one more comment.
Randy Herod, 111 Highland Boulevard. I'm going to address something here that has been mentioned, and it's just that I read it a little bit differently than it's been talked about. This had to be brought back up because there wasn't enough votes here to do it right. And to do that, you needed a motion to bring it back up, and Mr. Amos fits into that because the law on that says a motion to reconsider must be made and seconded by the members who voted on the prevailing side or by those who were absent and did not vote upon the motion to be reconsidered. Mr. Amos certainly fits that. He wasn't here. Spent some time in a bed. And Mr. Lynn could fit that. But I don't think anybody else does. Everybody else who's on the council was here. They were not absent. Unless I understand word meanings differently, abstain doesn't mean you're absent. It means you are just not doing it while you're here. I personally do not think that Mr. Schmidt, nice as he is, has any power to second the motion. And I think the whole issue is dead because of that. And if you go ahead with it, I think you're laying the groundwork probably for somebody to get really upset and cause some court action. If I was you and you want to do it, I would go to the Secretary of State and ask them about it because I don't think that fits.
Dave, you done studying?
Oh, I thought Susie was going to answer.
I already did.
Oh, okay, nobody listens to Susie. Dave Zella for City Attorney. Hello. Just the opposite of Mr. Kmeier there. An abstention in this matter is the same as a no vote, which means that he was on the prevailing side. I think that's pretty well established.
All right, so
Steve Murphy, 124 Terrace Drive. I guess, Mayor Hart, I'm sorry if you've come out with a statement. I've kind of missed it, and I did do a quick search of the Courier back there with mobile technology. I don't mind that we're necessarily trying to work around and do a lot of kind of one-off things, an email meeting with people may or may not be on the email. There's a lot of things that we've tried to get this through. And writing the grant necessarily doesn't cost the city money. And there's still a chance to get it paid for. Are you willing to come out and say that there will be no city money used, that we either get enough money from the grants, the WDC, and all the other folks? Because then I'm not sure that I really care that we're trying to go forward and get it for free with tax money. But what I haven't heard you say, and what I couldn't find in the Courier, is a strong statement saying it's not a need, it's a want, and we will not have city money, budget money, bond money. It won't ever be in a CIP, and this is going to either be paid for with donations or federal money or state money, or it will not go forward. Because I think at that point, then it's not the big issue. Because what we're hearing is 1 week it's a matter of Can we find some money to fund a jobs program for kids that may, that may really need some help hooking up with skills to get jobs? And the next week it's Whitewater. I'm saying, can you tap the brakes a little bit and just tell us what's important, and let's work on what's important, because if it's all important, we can't do it all. Thank you for your time.
So that was a direct question to me?
It was.
Because this project started with a predecessor of mine working together. So the reason there's no comments about it is because I didn't make one either way to say if we will or not. We don't know. I'm sitting here trying to figure out if we can find some additional funding outside of the resources of the city to try to do this. So you're right, there hasn't been a statement from me. But with regards to tapping the brakes, that's exactly what the city of Waterloo is not going to do. We're not going to tap the brakes. We're going to continue to move forward to try to find different things for our community to be and do. So when it comes to trying to find jobs for people, when it comes to trying to attract businesses here, when it comes to public safety, we're going to continue to try to move forward to help this community as much as we can. But right now we have a motion to reconsider on the table. Madam, yeah, roll call vote.
Mr. Mayor, or do we make any comments, or?
For the reconsider.
Yeah, well, in regards to what's been said so far, and one of the things that strikes me is a statement about needs versus wants. Well, in my humble opinion, Waterloo not only needs but wants to move forward. Waterloo not only wants but needs to build and to grow. And let's combine those two, needs and wants. This is something that not only our city has expressed through prior leaders of wanting to have as something that would make our city a destination point. I see it as both, and I support this and hope that it passes.
Right.
So this is just the motion to reconsider?
Just to reconsider.
Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Once again, I will abstain.
Mr. Welper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
Before I vote, I'd like a point of order in regards to Councilman Smith's vote. I believe it's already been established through our city attorney that his reason for abstention is not a proper reason. And I believe that there needs to be a proper reason to abstain from a vote.
You were supposed to vote yes.
What?
For the
Just to
reconsider.
reconsider.
To bring it back.
Okay, then I misunderstood. I vote yes.
Yes.
All right, so it is on the agenda at this particular point. All right, so now moving into item 13, we did receive some comments by Mr. Daniel Pollock. And Paul, could you go through some of those questions that was asked so that the public understands them?
Sure. It might take a little time because he had a lot of questions. Paul Hutting, Leisure Services Director. Question 1, since the project is now asking for federal funding, ADA compliance is required. I see that the current grant application includes a vague statement that the project will be in compliance with ADA regulations as required by Architectural Barriers Act, ABA 42 USC 4151, and the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA 28 CFR Part 35-235 and 1003 recreational boating facilities.
You can kind of massage them together a little bit so people get the crux of the...
Okay, I get the idea. Answer, I'll jump to the answer. The project access will be ADA compliant, the access, where you access the facility. And our team has worked with disabled river users such as Wounded Warriors to create access points that accommodate those individuals. Specific details will be included in final bid documents, approximately 60% complete at this time, and that answer came from our consultant. Now the second question is longer. It goes to whether the city has received a written legal opinion on how this facility will affect our insurance company, delineating their degree of liability. Basically, it's saying they want to know how are we dealing with the city's potential liability. The answer that I have for that, I kind of defer to Susie because we both met with our insurance carrier, but Susie, you've got a little more detailed information on that.
The insurance carrier noted that they're very familiar with these whitewater parks and that multiple cities have them, and that our current liability policy would cover such an activity, and that a separate policy would not need to be taken out the way our current policy is written. Obviously, our policy changes every year, but as of right now, we would not be required to take out a separate policy. It would be covered under the current liability policy that we have.
One thing that was noted when we had our meeting was that the condition of the dam post-construction, assuming we go ahead with the project, will indeed be safer than pre-construction or current day. It will be safer with this in than it is now. It'll effectively eliminate what's commonly referred to as a drowning pool in the area where this is going to be installed. Next question, you got to keep this moving because there's a lot of them. The city has stated that no property tax money or city funds will be needed for this project, but at the last council meeting it was clear that bonds would likely be used. Besides my City of Waterloo property tax money, we pay Iowa state taxes and we pay federal taxes, so my tax money is being used for this project. The answer we have here is Waterloo Development Corporation has funded the design and engineering. A variety of grants are being sought to keep city expenditures to a minimum, but some city match may be required. Any required matching funds will require city council approval. So that's not a complete answer. I apologize for that. We don't know, but we, as the mayor said, we're trying to find all of the grant funding sources we can, and some of those do require some city match. So this will come back before this body. This body makes the decision on that, whether or not to fund any part of this project. I will say that I didn't make a statement that there would never be any city dollars put into this. I'm not sure if the previous mayor made that flat statement or not. I do know that Waterloo Development Corporation is 100% behind this project, but they do have funding restrictions with what they have to pay to finish the Sportsplex project. So they have, as I said, put money into it. They may put additional money into it in the future. So next question. Question 5, how many alarm stations will be along the course to summon rescue personnel in the event of an emergency? Answer, no current whitewater parks in this country use such a system. Alarms may be installed at 2 takeout locations if desired. Question 6, has the Army Corps of Engineers agreed to allow the city to modify and or remove the current flood protection walls to allow public access and to allow ADA access to the entry and to the exit points of the course? Answer, pre-planning meeting with Army Corps has been held and they await our completed drawings and permit applications. Flood wall modifications will be reviewed through the Section 408 process, and the design team has verbal collaboration with the Army Corps of Engineers on the desired modifications. Question 7, are other current river walk trails / walkways in the city ADA compliant? Answer, yes. 8th question, will the entry points and exit points have ADA boat ramps / docks? Answer, there are no boat ramps or docks in the design at this time. Access points will be ADA compliant. Question 9, are the current city boat docks and the boathouse facility ADA compliant? Answer, yes. Question 10, as a public attraction, where are the restroom facilities located? Answer, none are being constructed. There are public restrooms existing in a nearby parking ramp that could be utilized if necessary. Question 11, how much money has been budgeted for property acquisition, and how many properties will the city need to buy for this project? Answer, none and none. Question 12, does the design company have adequate insurance coverage for errors and omission? in their design, or will the city of Waterloo be liable to correct any missing compliance items, or for improperly installing items, or for settlements with DOJ in event of ADA non-compliance? Answer, yes. Next page. Question 13, the total cost of the total cost specified in the grant application is $2,607,739. Will that be a not to exceed cost, or will the project encounter likely unforeseen costs causing the total to be closer to $6,500,000? Parentheses, like when the city agreed to take over the old IPS dam and then was subject to a much higher cost for significantly larger anchor rods to install the bladder dam. Answer, cost estimates will be revised upon completion of working drawings. There will be an alternate to enhance or remove the Lowhead Dam at 6th Street. Question 14, since there is no specific dollar cost specified for this project, then it must be known what properties that the city will take, what kind of facilities will be installed, and that info should be made public before a grant application is submitted. Answer, no properties will be taken. Question 15, since the proposed location for the Whitewater Trail is basically a tunnel between the flood walls in downtown, why not develop a Whitewater Trail and or a second tubing course downstream of the current dam from 6th to 11th Street, or even all the way down to the Mitchell Sand Pits recreational area on the south side of the river? That would allow the downtown area to grow and provide a large green space, creating the access to the river that this project deserves, creating a space for new businesses and for residential development. Answer, the project requires approximately 9 foot of drop and removes and alters the existing dangerous single drop dam. There is insufficient gradient through that reach to create valuable whitewater. Question 16, where is the nearest spot where a fire department watercraft can be launched? Answer, existing boat ramp. Actually, there's a boat ramp above and a boat ramp below, but that most likely would be the boat ramp below. Question 17, how fast can they get to the person? Answer, 4 minutes. Question 18, how will tubes be transported back to the start area? Drag along the narrow river walk. Answer, carry along 5 foot wide riverside concrete walkway. Similar projects across the country utilize hard and soft surface trails ranging from 1 foot in width to 10 foot in width. Question number 19, how will rental kayaks be transported back to the point of rental? Answer is hand carry, but I'd like to expand on that. We don't have any rental kayak plans at this time, and the city will not be operating rentals. Not to say a private sector couldn't at some point. Question 20, how will personally owned kayaks be transported back to the point of entry? Answer, hand carry. Question 21, kayaks typically go down a whitewater trail and then go back up the same trail. Will there be a separate trail for tubes to go down, or will tubes be allowed to collide with kayaks, increasing the injury and city liability potential? Answer, sharing the waterway is a common practice. Question 22, why design a kayak park for so few people? Answer, 75% of users are actually on the shoreline watching, eating, taking in the trail, fishing, etc. Of the 25% that use the water, many will be tubers using the course for recreation, and many will use it to safely navigate around the existing dam. This is a community facility designed for the general public and for safety improvements. I have a number of studies on economic value associated with the parks, and a study on who uses the park suggesting 75% are bank users. I think they mean riverbank, not the money bank. Please let me know if these are needed. I'm done. Unless you have questions for me. I just read all of that, so
Can you
there's probably embellishment needed in some areas.
forward that to the council as well?
Yes, I thought we were going to do that
Okay.
today. I gave
Yeah.
it to Michelle, and I think she was planning to do that.
All right, thank you. Council, any other questions? No. Madam Clerk, roll call vote on 13.
This was moved by Amos and seconded by Schmidt. Right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Lind?
No.
Mr. Amos?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
I will abstain.
Mr. Wilper?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobs?
No.
Mr. Morrissey?
Mr. Mayor, again, I will, before I vote, say that I believe that Councilman Schmidt is required to vote, that his reason for abstention does not fit the definition of a reason to abstain from a vote like this as stated last week by our city attorney. So I will wait to see if that is upheld, that point of order.
The saga continues.
No.
I don't believe you can force Mr. Schmidt to vote. I think he can abstain anytime he wants to. Regardless of how I feel about it, he doesn't have to vote.
Well, it's my understanding that an abstention requires certain criteria to be met, and I believe last week that the city attorney, you had said that you did not feel that he legally did not feel that his reason for not voting was pertinent or relevant.
I think he's saying that legally he didn't believe that there may be a conflict, but he was also saying you can't twist his arm and make him.
I think the Robert's Rules of Orders and the law is very clear about that. If Mr. Schmidt doesn't want to vote, you can't make him vote. I just, his explanation of a conflict of interest, I didn't feel was a conflict of interest. If he feels he does, we can discuss it outside the presence of these chambers in privacy. And perhaps I'm wrong, perhaps he does have a reason, but I haven't heard it yet. But still, we can't force him to vote. If he wants to abstain, he has every right to do so.
Well, again, I just want to say that I'm going to check on this, because my recollection of reading this in the past was that any abstention required a qualified reason to abstain, and so I will vote in favor of this.
All right, and that's fine. I just want to move on and make a decision
Mr.
for
Mayor,
once. Yes,
if I could, just for the record, Mr. Morrissey, you're entitled to your opinion. Councilor Zellifer's entitled to his opinion. I talked to several commercial realtors over the weekend, and there's no question in their mind that, given the fact that the building I own is right on the banks of this proposed whitewater path, given the fact that I think most of us saw the article in the Courier that my current tenant's going to be moving out, very likely that that's going to end up being a restaurant or some public facility. As we heard in the presentation, 75% of the people that would use this proposed water park would probably be sitting on my deck having a cocktail. And so the fact that that would not benefit me just defies logic. So I'm sorry if you don't understand that part of it, but and I'm not going to put myself in a position of personally benefiting myself based on what I do on a city council. I've been consistent in that. In the 9 years I've been on here, my company's done a lot of business with the city. I have always abstained whenever I knew that an item of mine was anywhere on the budget, and to me this is just an extension of that, and that's my opinion, so that's why I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Mayor.
With regards to his statement, I do agree in this situation. We can't make him vote. He laid out the reasons he thought that it was a conflict potentially on this. So I think we need to move forward with another point of business or other questions. But, as far as that particular point, that's mute for now.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it's immaterial at this point anyway. Mr. Jacobs has changed his vote since last week, so it's a dead issue.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming we don't need to go forward we can get
Okay. Did you vote, Miss? Did you vote?
Yes, I
You did.
voted yes.
Yeah.
So since it fails to have anybody write it, I don't really do any motion to.
I didn't hear all the vote results.
It failed to have the writer. Do we need to vote for the actual grant since we don't have anybody to write and submit the grant?
That's up to you guys.
Well, Mr. Mayor, one of the things I would like to ask is, with Councilman Jacobs' voting yes last week and no this week, I would ask Mr. Councilman Jacobs if he would let the full council and the public know why he's changed his vote.
Yeah, no problem.
That is up to his discretion.
Yes, I
It's not
understand
my-
that.
It is
I
not
understand
mine,
that.
really.
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem. First of all, councilmen have a right to vote either way they want, whether you agree or not. And I simply thought it was okay to investigate the grant opportunity for this project. It's a want, not a need for the city. So that's simply what it is. Looking into it all week, talked to a lot of people about this. After all, we represent not ourselves or what we want to do up here, but what our constituents want, and those we know in the community. And there is no guarantee that this project would not cost taxpayers money. There is no guarantee. It's even in the CIP right here. So, yeah, it's in here, and the idea is to get grant money to pay for it. But I see other priorities that we would use our taxpayers' money for before this. And so I could not in good conscience vote for this with what the folks have told me this week, what I found out. I've researched more information on this. And so that's why I voted no. I hope that's satisfactory.
Well, it is your explanation, and you did decide to do it. It wasn't at my request, but I would just say at this point, if we can absolutely move on, this is a check mark for all of us to take and look in history with our surrounding cities and other places around the state. We made a decision with regards to this particular grant, and we will have to live with our decision. So 14 and 15 are on.
13 and 14 on the actual grant itself.
Well, we voted on 13. We just
I'm
voted
sorry,
on that
yeah.
one. So 14 and 15.
Are the actual grant.
So these are mute, right? Because
That's right.
because we can't pay them to do it.
I think so.
It's over.
All right. So 14 and 15, we no longer have to do these because the one of them was to have the money to pay for it. So.
Mr. Mayor, shouldn't we at least?
We should
have
probably
it
make
go
a
on
motion
record?
to remove them from the agenda.
So move. So move.
We have moved by Councilman Welper, seconded by Mr. Lynn to remove those from the agenda.
Do a voice vote.
Voice vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right. Right now, we have oral presentations. If you would like to address the council with your concerns for non-agenda related items, please bring your concerns forth.
Forrest Dillaboo, 1725 Huntington Road. First, I'd like to say I'm very disappointed with what appears to be the attorney attacks up there amongst some of those folks. Everyone has a right to their opinion, and the council people have a duty to vote for what the citizens want, and I believe that's what is being done. Secondly, I would like to say that I am in Ward 1. I have no councilman to represent me. I hear nothing. It's dead silence. I don't know if things are being done behind the scenes or what. I would like to have the opportunity to have a council person and not wait until an election. Maybe we could break the divide of 3 and 3, or whatever the Courier or anybody else cares to call it. Maybe we should be asking for names of people who want to be a council person in Ward 1. I would like to see this broke. You know, I deserve a representative just like the rest of the citizens of Waterloo. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, please come forward. Non-agenda related items.
David Driver, 3145 West 4th Street. Mr. Hart, I guess I need some clarification from last council meeting. Do we have the right to speak for 3 minutes, or do we have one question?
What I would like to have, what I would like to see is if you make statements and then you have a series of questions, if you could give us those questions at the beginning so that we can decide if we have the information, if we don't have the information. Because if you're going back and forth with the department head about a particular answer, then you won't get your full 3 minutes. So,
During a normal conversation, sir, oftentimes when I ask a question and somebody gives me an answer, that creates another question. So when you asked me last week whether I had more than one question, I had the one question, which in a conversation normally would possibly generate another question. So that's why I'm bringing this up, because last week I felt that I was, as I stated, cut off. I asked the question I needed to have answered. That in a conversation usually will possibly create another question. And that's what happened last week. So I would like to make sure that we get our 3 minutes or one question. Which is it?
What does it say?
This is one issue. I'm going to speak to one issue per meeting.
One issue per meeting, but I've been allowed.
It was on the
people-
same issue, sir.
Did we talk after that? Just so
No, we
people-
did not. I was going to email you, and I decided I would rather bring it up here and get an answer on one question or 3 minutes,
Okay.
when it's on the same related subject.
You get 3 minutes, and then I can decide whether or not I'll have staff answer that question.
Okay? So I don't get 3 minutes, thank you.
You got 45 left.
Bill Kemmeier, 526 Home Park Boulevard, Ward 1. Guess what? I'll throw my name out there. I'm not afraid to run. I'm not afraid to try to fill that seat. So if you're waiting for an election, I'll tell you right now, if you don't come up with somebody, you'll see my name on the ballot. I've done it before and I'll do it again because I'm not afraid of the frying pan and I'm not afraid to get in the fire. So just thought I'd give you something to think about in the next day or two.
All right.
Are they done?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask a question if everybody else is done.
All right. Councilman Schmidt, since there's no other comments, Councilman Schmidt has the floor.
I just had a question. It's really kind of a follow-up to one of the comments. Do we have a time frame in mind, or what is the status of Ward 1? Because if there is a plan out there, I guess I must have missed the email. So if we could get an update, I'd appreciate it.
We pulled it off the agenda in the last meeting because we are getting confirmation as to how to make sure that we're following all of the legal requirements as far as dates. There's, several different statutes that all come into play with the primary election falling and all of that. So we will be getting something out soon. I was on the phone all morning with the Secretary of State's office and Grant Peter, and we're working
So
on
this
that.
is in their court, the state?
The state law
Yeah.
has very specific deadlines as to when council has to do things, when the county has to do things, and there's also other requirements that
There's a
have to do with the
primary.
primary that falls in the middle of all of it. So we're just trying to make sure that we're crossing our Ts and dotting our Is before we get it on the agenda and move forward with
Gotcha.
something.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I'd like to make a quick statement. As you all know, had a couple of heart attacks in the past week, and one of the things that I would like the citizens out there to understand is my second heart attack, I had the Waterloo Fire Department come out. Please do not wait if you have chest pains. I have no heart damage at all because I reacted quickly. So please, if you have chest pains, make sure that you are calling to get 911 out there to you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Make a comment if I could. Last week, we talked a lot about the Waterloo Center for the Arts and the supervisory position, and just felt that we just didn't have a clear enough picture of the position. And I take filling those positions very, very seriously for the city, on behalf of the taxpayer. And so we did, a couple of us did spend some time with Director Schenkel and his assistant, and hats off to him. He was one of the few directors here that actually brought his budget in under budget. So we really appreciate that, and he really did a fine job in explaining the need for that supervisory position to be filled. And by the way, there was only one position that's vacant, not two. So there was some misinformation and some attacks being made, but I think we did a fair job in investigating it, and I feel confident that we bring that back around. I think we'll be comfortable in filling that position. So I thank you for the chance to meet Director Schenkel, and look forward to filling that position.
Motion to receive our oral comments and adjourn.
Second. And the hope is to get around to all the departments as well, because they do a fantastic job, just as Kent does as well. Motion's been made with the proper second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.